Have you ever witnessed something so pure, so unlikely, that it completely changes how you see the world? Something that makes you believe in the power of love, no matter the species, no matter the differences. This is the story of Peggy, a Staffordshire Terrier, and Molly, a Magpie. Two very different creatures whose friendship shows us that love knows no boundaries. It all began in the heart of Queensland, Australia, where one small act of kindness set the stage for a bond that defies all odds. It was just another peaceful day in the heartlands of Queensland. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and Peggy, the Staffordshire Terrier, was out on her usual walk with her human companion, Julietta. Life was simple, serene, and perfect, until they stumbled upon something that would change everything. Peggy was leading the way, sniffing at the ground, when she suddenly stopped. Her nose twitched and her ears perked up. Julietta followed Peggy's gaze, and there, lying motionless in the dirt, was a magpie. A beautiful bird, but one in a terrible state. Its wings were bent awkwardly, its feathers were matted with dirt, and thorns clung to its fragile body. Julietta's heart sank. This bird, so full of life, was barely clinging to it. She bent down, and the sight of the poor magpie nearly broke her. It wasn't moving. It wasn't even blinking. Just lying there, vulnerable, with no hope of survival. She called out to her husband, Reese, who was just a few steps behind. "Reese, you need to come see this." He rushed over, and together they realized that the magpie had no chance of survival unless they did something about it. They knew what they had to do. They couldn't just leave it. With a sense of urgency, Julietta gently scooped the magpie into her arms, cradling it with care as if it were a fragile piece of glass. Reese immediately sprang into action, calling their local veterinarian. The vet, a compassionate soul, listened closely to their concerns and assured them that they could help, but it would take a lot of work. Reese and Julietta didn't hesitate. They rushed home, carefully placing the injured bird in a warm, safe space. They set up a small area with soft blankets, a tiny bed for the magpie to rest on. They knew this wasn't just about saving a bird. This was about giving it a fighting chance at life. They were determined to do everything they could. The vet's instructions were clear. The bird needed proper nourishment, a specific diet, and most importantly, time. Time to heal. The next few days were filled with uncertainty. Every time Reese and Julietta checked on the magpie, they feared it wouldn't make it. The bird was sleeping too much, barely moving, and not eating as it should. Julietta couldn't help but worry. "Do you think she's going to make it, Reese?" Julietta asked one evening, her voice trembling with doubt. "What if we've waited too long? What if she never recovers?" Reese, ever the optimist, reassured her. "We're doing everything we can. We just need to give her time. It's going to be okay." It wasn't easy. Every small movement from the magpie was met with hope, but also fear. Would it be enough? Could they really save this creature who had no reason to trust them? Now, it's hard to imagine how a dog and a bird could even form a bond, let alone heal together. After all, Peggy had experienced her own share of trouble with birds. The harsh pecks, the squawks that often sent her running. But there was something different about this magpie, something that seemed to stir Peggy's protective instincts. Peggy, though hesitant, approached the magpie with caution. She sniffed the bird, her nose twitching. But instead of barking or showing aggression, Peggy stayed calm. She seemed to understand that this bird was fragile, that it needed time to recover. And so she kept her distance, watching over the magpie, a silent guardian. Julietta and Reese were amazed by Peggy's patience. Every day, they watched the dog inch closer to the bird. Over time, Peggy's awareness turned to curiosity, and soon enough, they were sharing the same space without fear. As the days went by, the magpie, now affectionately named Molly, started showing signs of life. She began eating more, regaining strength, and eventually, she even started moving around. It wasn't easy, but with every flutter of her wings, it was clear that she was healing. Soon, Molly was strong enough to leave her little bed and explore her new surroundings. But here's the twist: she didn't want to leave. She had been given a second chance at life, and instead of returning to the wild, she chose to stay. Reese and Julietta opened the windows to let her fly free, but Molly surprisingly stayed. She didn't want to leave her new home. It was a safe place, filled with love and care, and that was more important to her than the freedom of the sky. As the days turned into weeks, Peggy and Molly's bond grew stronger. They began to do everything together. Peggy, the dog who had once feared birds, was now her companion, her family. Molly would rest next to Peggy, And instead of running away, Peggy would snuggle up close, offering her warmth and companionship. They weren't just coexisting, they were forming a bond that went beyond species. And there was something even more extraordinary happening. Molly started mimicking Peggy. She would bark, though it was a little less than perfect, just trying to fit in with her new family. In the end, Peggy and Molly became inseparable. They shared meals, played together, and even slept side by side. Molly, who had once been alone in the world, was now part of a family that cared for her and loved her unconditionally. And Peggy, the dog who had been afraid of birds, had found in Molly not just a companion, but a best friend. They filled each other's hearts in ways that words could never describe. So what does this story teach us? It reminds us that love transcends boundaries. It doesn't matter if you're a dog or a bird, or if you come from different worlds. The power of kindness, of offering help when it's needed most, can create bonds that defy all logic. And just like Reese, Julieta, Peggy, and Molly, each one of us has the ability to make a difference, to show kindness, to open our hearts, and to make the world a better place, one small act of love at a time. If this story moved you, share it. Tell others about the incredible bond between Peggy and Molly. Let their story inspire you to spread a little more love and kindness in the world. Because together, we can create a ripple of positivity. And just like this story, it all starts with one small act of compassion.